Welcome back to Straight Facts by Dinar Investor.
The exchange rate of foreign currency and economic feasibility studies, December 4, 2019. Below are the central controls related to the exchange rate of the foreign currency to convert the project inputs and outputs from foreign currency to its equivalent in the local currency. And that is by calculating the net discounted present value standard and the internal return on investments in economic analysis that governs investment projects that costs excess 1 million dinars. Estimate the shadow price of foreign currency. 1. It is necessary to put central controls to amend the official exchange rate to reflect the shadow price of the foreign currency. And that is considered one of the necessary requirements to implement the net discounted present value standard and the internal return rate on investment in the economic calculation stated in the instructions, paragraph 9. The central controls for adjusting market prices distinguish the group of outputs and inputs traded internationally, where the project's production or usage of them is reflected on the abundance of foreign currency in the economy, and thus project outputs or inputs used of such are considered purely foreign currency output. Why in the economy, and thus project outputs or inputs used of such are considered purely foreign currency outputs or inputs. What is meant by exchange rate? The number of units of foreign currency, expressed in dollar per 1 dinar. In particular, the following outputs and inputs of foreign currency were distinguished. Export outputs, outputs marketed locally that substitute imports. Imported inputs, inputs produced locally that usually go to exports. Foreign labor. According to the pricing rules, the value of the output and input, traded, is calculated using export prices, free on board, and import prices, CIF, according to what is listed in the pricing rules. In other words, the pricing rules calculate what the project produces from foreign currency, quantity of exports multiplied by the export price, free on board, in foreign currency, or the quantity of substitute imports multiplied by the import price, CIF. In foreign currency, as well as what the project uses from foreign currency, and imported inputs multiplied by the import price, CIF, in foreign currency, etc. In a later step, project outputs and inputs must be converted from the foreign currency to its equivalent in local currency, dinars, by using a specific exchange rate for the foreign currency too. Justifications for exchange rate adjustment. There are a number of important and powerful arguments which support the view that the official exchange rate reduces the real value of foreign currency for purposes of calculating the economic national profitability for investment projects, and hence for the purposes of investment planning. It is demonstrated in this context to call for assessing the dinar for less than $3.208 official exchange rate when assessing project outputs and inputs of traded goods of exports, substitute imports and imports, etc. The justifications to call for the use of an exchange rate that is lower than the official exchange rate are, the use of an exchange rate that is lower than the official rate is the appropriate action at the investment planning level to translate the country's economic strategy aiming at stimulating central investments in the sectors that encourage the development of non-oil exports, as well as sectors that encourage the expansion of domestic production base in order to reduce imports and compensate it with local commodities. This helps to reduce reliance on foreign exchange earnings from crude oil exports and increases the share of non-oil sectors in the local production. The application of the amended exchange rate on project imported inputs will assist in directing investments away from aggregated sectors dependent on imported inputs and the preference of those sectors that rely on locally produced inputs. The use of the amended exchange rate helps to correct the balance in favor of the traded goods sectors compared to non-traded goods. The real exchange rate has declined rapidly since the early 70s. Through rapid rise of the level of prices and local costs, which led by the steadiness of the official exchange rate to change in prices and actual local rate costs, it gave an advantage for imported goods at the expense of locally produced goods, meaning that it led to deterioration of the competitiveness of alternative replacement goods and export commodities. This action shows that the official exchange rate overestimates the value of the dinar, compared to the http://www.mopiraq.org/mopdc/index.jsp CIT equals 1 NID equals 308 and PIT equals 295 and LNG equals on 2 of 3, March 31, 2010, 12 hours, 57 minutes, and 23 seconds p.m. Ministry of Planning, Foreign Currency, and from the Promoting Goods Substituting Imports and Export Commodities point of view of, and in support to this view is the state's utilization and in a broad approach to the customs and quantitative protection policies, especially for consumer goods, as well as export subsidies that exports have through an amended export exchange rate. 3. Estimate the amended exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar to be used in technical and economical feasibility studies. And 4. $1.134 per dinar. This price should be approved for 3 years until reappreciation by the competent authorities. After announcing its refusal to submit a candidate for Prime Minister, Bloc Sorin nominated Mohammed Alawi in agreement with the conquest Wednesday, December 4, 2019 at 11:17. Baghdad Sky Press. A source familiar with the agreement reached between the conquest blocs and others to nominate former Minister Mohammed Tawfiq Alawi to head the new government, succeeding Adel Abdul Mahdi resigned. The agreement was backed by Iran, which is trying to overcome the resignation of Adel Abdul Mahdi, the source said. He pointed out that Alawi also enjoys the support of the National Alliance led by Ayad Alawi, who calculates the new candidate. With Riyadh Massaudi several days ago that Siren will not present a candidate will not interfere in the selection of the Prime Minister, and expressed surprise at the nomination of some political blocs to replace Abdul Mahdi. Mobility to declare the largest bloc within the parliament, and designate an alternative to Abdul Mahdi. With 8 conditions. Wednesday, December 4, 2019 at 11:18. Baghdad Sky Press. The Alliance of Siren, backed by Sadr's leader Muqtada al-Sadr, officially announced his abdication of his right to nominate the new head of the executive authority in December, considering the arena of protest is the largest bloc. A position listed by some as part of Sadr's attempts to ride the wave of demonstrations and seize the opportunity to be able to win new gains, while others saw that the Sadrists swung a prime minister from the womb of the demonstrations, chosen by popular referendum, in a course contrary to Article 76 of the Constitution, which mandates the most important candidate in the 15-day parliamentary bloc. But the current parliamentary session, the fourth in post-2003 Iraq, is very different from its predecessors. The prime minister it produced was named by consensus, and was not subject to the large bloc formula. Political sources say that the constitution did not define the shape of the large bloc, but only to name it, and international media pointed to sources that the only explanation for this word is what the federal court in 2010, when the withdrawal of the leader of the state of law Nouri al-Maliki, the rug from the Iraqi list, headed by Ayad Alawi, and formed his second government, after his alliance with the Iraqi National Coalition bloc. The interpretation of the federal court states that the largest bloc is formed after the elections through a single electoral list entered the elections with a certain name and number and won the most number of seats, or the bloc that gathered from 2 or more lists of electoral lists, which entered the elections with different names and numbers, and then clustered in one bloc with one entity in the House. The sources pointed out that the current parliamentary session is tainted by the controversy of the absence of the largest bloc, especially that the first meeting of the House of Representatives did not include the records of the most numerous bloc, which was formed after the elections, because the selection of the prime minister was by consensus, which likely optioned to resort to the federal court again, or procedure a round of meetings between the blocs to resolve this controversy. After Siren handed President Barham Salih an official letter regarding the abdication of the right to nominate the prime minister, and assigning the task to the Iraqi people as the largest bloc. Political sources from within the alliance-building coalition led by Hadi al-Ameri and Nouri al-Maliki favor Saleh to assign the Conquest Coalition the masses representing the popular mobilization nominate a candidate by him as the second winner of the election after walking, likely to deny other sources in the same coalition, stressing only to proceed with the 8 conditions and choosing successor Adel Abdul Mahdi, namely, 1. To be acceptable reference and popular, 2. Firm, strong and brave, 3. Independent and non-partisan, and loyalty is absolute to Iraq only, 4. Consistent with the security forces, including the popular mobilization, 5. Believes in the unity and sovereignty of Iraq, has the ability of management and leadership, and commits itself to a real reform program that fulfills the demands of the Marja'i and the people under certain time limits. 6. Not referred to on charges of corruption, or those covered by accountability and justice. 7. Non-current and former political leaders. 8. Non-dual nationals. However, political and parliamentary sources reveal that Haraka is going to announce the largest bloc within the parliament, and submit a request to designate an alternative from Abdul Mahdi. This movement is led by Fatah, the rule of law and Iraqi forces headed by Speaker of Parliament Mohammed al-Bausi, the Stream of Wisdom led by Mar al-Hakim, as well as the Kurdistan Democratic Party, and some independent deputies. MP, the current caretaker government will not allow it to sign any agreement with the Kurdistan government December 4, 2019 11:47. Baghdad where MP of the State of Law Coalition Mansour al-Baiji, Wednesday, that the current government cannot conclude any agreement, whether with the Kurdistan region or other, being a caretaker government is not entitled to hold such agreements, especially with regard to oil and the federal budget. Al-Baiji said in a statement received, Euphrates News, a copy, that the survival of the current government is for the conduct of the affairs of the country until a new prime minister is authorized to conclude agreements, whether with the government of the region or other. But at the moment any agreement will not allow doing within the House. He added that the outgoing prime minister favored the Kurdistan regional government a lot by giving a budget to the region and the payment of money during the period of Wisdom and the region did not issue a single barrel of oil to the center, and this order is rejected altogether and cannot be allowed permanently. He continued that the Kurdistan regional government is trying to pass an oil agreement with the government of Abdul Mahdi during its last days in order to ensure payment of dues in the budget next year, and this will not allow it permanently. If the KRG is sincere with the central government, it should wait until a new prime minister is chosen to agree on all oil and financial matters in order to guarantee the rights of all our provinces, he said. Their movement to promote local industry is a step towards market economy. December 4, 2019. Ghadir Al-Attar, a member of the Iraqi National Business Council, said that the popular movement to promote the local industry is a step towards a market economy. Al-Attar said in a statement received by Al Sumerian News, a copy of it, that the Iraqi citizen began to feel the importance of reviving the national industry because it has a significant role in the Iraqi economy, and praised campaigns promoted by all citizens in the health of social media about the importance of national. Iraqi MPs address the President of the Republic to assign a candidate to head the government. December 4, 2019. Direct Speaker of the Iraqi Council of Representatives, Mohammed Halbousi, addressed the President of the Republic Barham Saleh to appoint a candidate for Prime Minister within 15 days. Al-Halbousi, according to the Iraqi news agency Conscious, on Wednesday, President Barham Saleh, based on Article 76 of the Constitution, to assign a candidate to head the government within 15 days, after the approval of the resignation of former Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi. The House of Representatives decided on Sunday to accept the resignation of Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi. The President of the Iraqi Council of Representatives, on December 1, said that the President will be addressed to nominate a new Prime Minister in accordance with Article 76 of the Constitution. The former Iraqi Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi, November 29 last, resigned to the House of Representatives after an invitation from the Supreme Religious Authority to inject blood. She explained, a member of the Iraqi Council of Representatives of the Coalition of State Law, MP Hai Nassif, that the mechanism of choosing the new Prime Minister will be by opening the door for submission to those who find himself competent to run the country for the next year and a half, and passes through the political forces and deputies. Article 76 of the Iraqi Constitution on the formation of the government provides for 5 measures, most notably, assigning the President of the Republic, the candidate of the most parliamentary bloc, to form the Council of Ministers, within 15 days from the date of the election of the President of the Republic.